Welcome, friends, to Global Trends and Cycles. I'm Marie Sheppel, and this is your 2021 Venus retrograde forecast. The goddess of love turns naughty on the winter solstice in 2021, as her planet Venus appears to be moving backward through the zodiac, known as retrograde motion. This optical illusion of a planet moving backward occurs due to the angle between the Earth and the planet, and the fact that both Earth and the planet are revolving in different orbits around the Sun. Each planet has its own predictable retrograde schedule, with Venus going retrograde approximately every 18 months. She appears to move backward for about 6 weeks. Then she pauses and resumes forward motion. This Venus retrograde lasts from December 19, 2021 through January 29, 2022. Venus retrograde is notorious for evoking nostalgia about lost love, unrequited love, and unresolved romance. It is a time of complications in relationships, when the past intrudes upon the present. This is a time when some people may try to reconnect with people from their past, be they former lovers, estranged family members or friends, or even someone who owes them money. Venus is also associated with legal proceedings, and this particular Venus retrograde may see more than the usual number of lawsuits being filed and appealed. Regardless, it will be a long slog if you are pursuing justice at this time. This is a particularly intense period for going through a divorce or trying to recoup damages from someone with more power than you. Thus, Venus retrograde reeks of karma, especially romantic and financial karma. That holds double for this particular Venus retrograde, as Venus is in Capricorn, the sign ruled by Saturn, the big dog who dishes out karma. Not only that, Venus conjoins Pluto, the lord of the underworld, and all its steamy psychological impulses, just as she turns retrograde on December 19th. Saturn is currently in Aquarius and is square, a 90-degree angle, to Uranus in Taurus, which is ruled by Venus. By sign rulerships, Venus in Capricorn takes us to stern Saturn, the ruler of Capricorn, which is in Aquarius, which in turn takes us to Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, which is in Taurus, and then we're back to Venus, the ruler of Taurus. So there is a strong circulating pattern here. Underlying the psychological manipulation and sexual overtones of the Venus-Pluto conjunction is a standoff between responsibilities incurred in the past, represented by Saturn, and the yearning for an independent future, represented by Uranus. Saturn was the father of numerous Roman gods and goddesses, whom he also liked to devour, symbolizing his association with time and decay. Saturn also indicates restrictions, elders, and conservative attitudes in general. Perhaps he also represents the desire to retain power. Why else would he devour his children, unless he felt his authority would be threatened by them once they were grown? As Uranus was the father of Saturn, this Venus retrograde configuration includes a sort of generational standoff between these two giants. Many people may find themselves as pawns in a fierce competition between two authoritarian figures in their lives. This could be on a personal level, but just as likely, it could be a situation that is forced upon them by society, as Capricorn represents the power of entrenched traditional societal norms. Once Venus is moving direct again on January 29, 2022, Mars is in fast pursuit, just behind her in the zodiac in early Capricorn. Venus and Mars will be conjunct twice. First on February 16th at 17 degrees Capricorn, when Mars catches up to Venus and whizzes right on past her, for Venus is still dazed after her retrograde and getting back to her normal speed. They conjoin again on March 6th at 0 degrees Aquarius. This conjunction triggers the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction of late December 2020, which occurred at the same degree. This will affect global and commercial alliances. It also adds drama to any generational conflict. Thus, we've seen the political maneuvering of various authoritarian leaders around the globe, which reached a new phase with the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn of January 2020, which gets kicked into high gear with this Venus retrograde. It is all about power and the misuse of power. And as Venus rules money, and Pluto rules other people's money, the root of the conflict is all about the Benjamins. Also, Venus, Mars, and Pluto are in very close orb of conjunction on March 2nd, when all three planets are at 27 degrees Capricorn. Very important agreements can be finalized on this day, as a Mercury-Saturn conjunction occurs on the same day, though these agreements may be due to the coercion of Pluto rather than the persuasion of Venus. The events under this triple conjunction will hark back to the day that Venus went retrograde, as there was a Venus-Mars-Pluto conjunction by Anticia points on that day. Venus and Pluto were at 25-26 degrees Capricorn, and Mars at 4 degrees Sagittarius was on the Antician point of 26 degrees Capricorn. Thus, these three planets were functioning as if they were all in conjunction on December 19, 2021. This recurring triple conjunction is very important for China and Taiwan, as I will explain in a few minutes. Note that March 2nd is a new moon in Pisces, conjunct Jupiter. So someone is hoping to expand their influence and cement their hold on others. On the world stage, the Venus retrograde of 2021 will be characterized by two things: a jarring wake-up call about economic reality, and the manipulation of those in a compromised position by those with power over them. With the conservative sign Capricorn as the backdrop to the Venus-Pluto conjunction, this Venus retrograde period will likely be fraught with confrontations over women's rights, and possibly increased violence against women that will intensify the conservative-liberal conflict over women's position in society. It will definitely bring back issues of male dominance of women and of sexual abuse and harassment. And the underlying Saturn-Uranus square represents strong societal forces, backward forces, opposing women's freedom. This occurs within the larger context of the Uranus-Pluto cycle. You can learn more about this in the Venus retrograde section of my website. The link is in the description below. I've already talked about how this Venus retrograde will affect the rights of women in Afghanistan in my video on the Taliban takeover. I'd just like to emphasize that the chart of Afghanistan shows that Afghani women are stronger than the Taliban. And even though the events of the next few months may be of extremely brutal repression of women, these same events lead to the emergence of Afghani women, one woman in particular, as the leaders of their country in the upcoming years. For China, the events of Venus retrograde would be a continuation of the mess surrounding the heavily indebted Chinese property market due to losses associated with wealth management products that were sold by banks that also gave loans to property developers. It may be when Chinese leadership decides which developers and banks will survive and which will be allowed to fail. This Venus retrograde is all about the connection between the shadow banking system and the official banking system, as Venus, always associated with finance, conjoins China's natal Jupiter, the ruler of China's second house of finances. Note that natal Jupiter resides in the 12th house of hidden things. The extent of the interweaving of these two systems may be revealed, especially with regard to the Chinese property market. Chinese leadership will have a difficult choice to make. Make good on their promises of common prosperity to the masses, and hopefully maintain their position of absolute power by reimbursing retail investors for failed wealth management products of the shadow banking system, or keep the disaster from spreading outward by bailing out selected companies to avert a system collapse and let some investors take losses. Chinese leadership may try to make a show of doing both options, but that is not financially sustainable. The transiting Saturn-Uranus square indicates the conflict behind this decision. Note that Saturn in Aquarius is moving to oppose natal Mars and Pluto, 14 to 17 degrees Leo, and Uranus in Taurus is moving to oppose natal Venus, 19 degrees Scorpio. So both planets are moving to form a loose grand cross with these natal planets, all of which are associated with finance. As the party prizes what they call stability most of all, their initial decision as Venus goes direct on January 29, 2022, is to compensate retail investors for failed wealth management products. But as this chart's dynamics indicate a hidden power struggle within the party at this time, it's really about who will be in charge and who has the backing to remain in charge. But in early August 2022, transiting Mars in the North Node will conjoin Uranus at 18 degrees Taurus, opposing natal Venus. This will be a critical moment, and the party's decisions at this time will mainly affect foreign investors, probably in an adverse way. But as Venus goes retrograde on December 19th, the Chinese Communist Party may make decisions they'll later regret, as transiting Mars, 4 degrees Sagittarius, is conjoining China's natal Chiron. This has a boomerang effect with the Venus-Pluto conjunction at 26 degrees Capricorn, due to Mars being on the Antician point of 26 degrees Capricorn. This configuration indicates a case of overreach by the party, which of course they don't consider it as overreaching, but other countries and financial markets may consider it as such. So the last 10 days of December 21 may be very interesting. In connection with China, Taiwan's chart is greatly affected by the Venus-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn, as it conjoins Taiwan's natal Uranus at 25 degrees Capricorn. Not only that, all of these planets form a T-square with Taiwan's progressed nodes, at 25 degrees Aries Libra, indicating a decisive moment for Taiwan's alliances. As Taiwan's natal chart for October 10, 1911, for sunrise, gives Taiwan a Libra ascendant, Venus is the ruler of Taiwan and its people. Thus, Taiwan as Venus finds itself as a pawn in the struggle between Saturn and Uranus, the two heavyweights symbolizing China and the United States. Taiwan will experience even greater pressure from its huge neighbor to the north. All of this is happening within the backdrop of progressed Venus opposing progressed Pluto, indicating that Taiwan, represented by Venus, is facing open coercion from a more powerful country. Note that the transiting North Node and Ceres, 28 degrees, 29 degrees Taurus, will conjoin progressed Mars in late December 2021 and early January 2022, with both trine, 120-degree angle, progressed Uranus at 29 degrees Capricorn. Mars is the ruler of the 7th house of open opponents and allies, and as Ceres is associated with movement across borders, this time period may see a very blatant and aggressive move by a neighboring country toward Taiwan. Note that because the nodes move backward through the zodiac, the transiting nodes were at 4 degrees Gemini Sagittarius in early October 2021 and were forming a T-square with progressed Chiron, 4 degrees Pisces. This was the time period in which China sent more military planes flying into Taiwan's ADIZ than ever before. In January 2022, transiting Jupiter in the early degrees of Pisces, conjoining natal and progressed Chiron. Jupiter conjoining natal Chiron indicates that Taiwan's weakest point is being played upon by a more powerful neighbor. This will probably bring a repeat of events from early October 2021. Note that Jupiter, the ruler of Sagittarius, is the ruler of Taiwan's 3rd house, the sector of neighboring countries, and transiting Mars is moving through Sagittarius, indicating aggressive behavior by a neighbor. This may include coercion to sign some sort of agreement between December 25, 2021 and January 16, 2022, that involves a definition of Taiwan's rights to security. As Venus is retrograde and transiting Mercury and Saturn in Aquarius are squaring the natal moon and progressed Saturn in Taurus, any agreement made at this time would put Taiwan in a compromised position. Taiwan definitely is resistant to the idea and would probably refuse, as transiting Mercury and Saturn also square natal Jupiter 16 degrees Scorpio. Hopefully, a decision would be delayed. Taiwan will be in a much stronger position when the transiting Venus-Mars-Pluto conjunction conjoins natal Uranus on March 3, 2022. But if any agreement is signed under the Venus retrograde, when there is a Venus-Mars-Pluto conjunction by Anticia, it will be challenged near March 3rd. With such a strong gathering of planets in the 4th house of territory and security, Taiwan receives support from powerful allies. The Pisces new moon conjunct Jupiter on the same day, with all opposing natal Venus 13 degrees Virgo, is another signature of an important agreement with strong diplomatic and financial backing from allies. The most intense effects of Venus retrograde often begin before Venus turns retrograde, as she is slowing down to pause and turn backward. On December 1st, 2021, the U.S. Supreme Court will begin its hearing on the case Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization, which has potential to override the Roe v. Wade decision, which established a woman's constitutional right to an abortion in the United States. This ruling was made on January 22, 1973, and thus the Roe v. Wade natal chart has Jupiter at 22 degrees 50 minutes Capricorn. So the 2020 Saturn-Pluto conjunction at 22 degrees 46 minutes Capricorn was almost exactly conjunct that natal Jupiter. And as Jupiter is associated with courts and judges, the current Saturn-Pluto cycle will have an important bearing on Roe v. Wade. So will the conflict represented by the transiting Saturn-Uranus square, which underlies this Venus retrograde. Venus spends her retrograde period moving through the 12th house of this sunrise chart, and the Sun-Venus conjunction on January 8, 2022, at 18 degrees Capricorn, triggers the grand trine of progressed Mars, 19 degrees Capricorn, the natal Moon, 19 degrees Virgo, and natal Hades, 20 degrees Taurus. The December 4th, 2021 total solar eclipse at 12 degrees 22 minutes Sagittarius affects the Roe v. Wade chart also, as it triggers the square between natal Saturn, 14 degrees Gemini, and progressed Venus, 14 degrees Pisces. This eclipse square configuration is triggered again by the March 2nd new moon in Pisces, the same day as the Venus-Mars-Pluto configuration at 27 degrees Capricorn, which conjoins natal Mercury. An interesting observation is that Amy Coney Barrett, a Supreme Court judge, has natal Venus at 14 degrees Pisces. I don't wish to wade into this emotionally charged political minefield by giving a full interpretation, but this is definitely a case of a clash of powerful forces in society, with the court under extreme pressure from both sides of an ideological conflict. The court claims it will conform to only the technicalities involved. I will say, however, that progressed Mercury is very, very important for the Roe v. Wade chart in this second 8-year round of the Venus retrograde cycle. She works in mysterious ways. At the level of personal relationships, Venus may seem to be dominated by a Pluto overlord, but Uranus is in Taurus, a sign ruled by Venus, so she has influence over someone quite powerful and exciting, who also does not want to see restrictive and boring Saturn win the game. But will Uranus prove to be a reliable ally or a flaky bully? One thing you can say for Saturn: he's not flashy, but if he's on your side, he's really there for you, though he does demand payment in the form of self-discipline and obedience. So the dilemma for Venus is this: can she muster the willpower and the resources to leave an oppressive situation? Or would she be better off to submit to society's expectations and get immediate material security in the bargain? The answer is, it depends. Where the Venus-Pluto conjunction falls in your birth chart will have much to do with the outcome for you. So read on. Check the forecast for your sign on my website. Links are in the description below. And check the forecast for your person of interest. Thank you for joining me today. Please subscribe and check back for more upcoming videos. Bye for now.